Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I have been meaning to do some kind of audiobook favorite or just an audiobook video for a while now, but I always just end up not doing it. I didn't do an audiobook favorites video for 2017, which is a shame because I actually read way more audiobooks last year than I read this year. I was on a huge audiobook kick last year. I just, for whatever reason, never did the video. But I wanted to talk about some of the audiobooks that I listened to this year that were standouts, so that maybe you can get a recommendation or two of things you might want to listen to. So the first one is the last book in a long series of audiobooks I've been listening to, and that is Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. So I listened to every single book in the realm of the Elderlings on audio, and I would highly recommend them. I will say the very first trilogy is narrated by one narrator, and then the rest of the books that have to do with Fitz are narrated by a different narrator, and I actually like the one who narrates the later ones better. The one who narrates the first one pronounces some of the names weird, and then there's a different narrator, there's a female narrator for the live ship traders and everything that kind of happens in the Rainwild area. So, there's two different narrators throughout the, well, three technically, but throughout the entire arc, and they're all fantastic. I felt like the culminating book was done really, really well. They're always really read really dramatically and helped me get into them, and just, yeah, I think especially with some of the names that maybe you don't necessarily know how to pronounce. That's one thing I love about audiobooks, is when you have books with complicated names, they're pronounced for you. So that's always fun. But I just love the experience of listening to this entire arc on audio, and the last one was no exception. And then this year, one of my goals was to reread Bel Canto, and I actually wanted to see what the audiobook for it would be like. So I ended up listening to Bel Canto on audio, and I loved it. It definitely gave a different layer to it, and you know, rereading a book in the first place, you're going to discover new things about the book that you didn't notice the first time. So I definitely noticed a lot more of the foreshadowing, and just really loved the addition of it being on audio and kind of getting immersed in that world again. So I would highly recommend both the written and the audiobook of Bel Canto. Just fantastic. So another kind of series of books sort of that I always listen to on audio if I can are the Hogarth Shakespeare editions of different, like the retellings of different Shakespeare plays. So I always listen to the full cast version of the play first. So with this pairing, it was Othello and New Boy by Tracy Chevalier, and the version of Othello was fantastic. There's a particular cast that I can't think of the name of off of the top of my head, but I get them through Hoopla. I'll list down below which cast it is, but there's a particular cast that does all the Shakespeares that I like to listen to. And then for Tracy Chevalier's New Boy, I listened to it on audio as well, and I just thought it was really beautifully done. So it was, it had different voices, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a little while since I listened to it, but I just really loved this book. And the theme you're going to hear here is that, for me, a lot of times the audiobook gives more depth to the story and really just makes me feel engaged. And this was definitely one of those that did that. And I love the pairing of the full cast version of the play and then the audiobook for the retelling, because full cast versions, honestly, plays are not meant to be read. So listening to someone act it out, to me, is so much more true to form and gives it so much more. So I really like to butt the two up to each other, because I really like to get fully immersed in that story with the full cast version of the play, followed by that audiobook version of the story. And I just feel like I get so much out of that pairing, and so much out of it as an audiobook pairing especially. Another audiobook that I super enjoyed this year was The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. This was just really adorable. Like, I think it was a good one to listen to in the mornings on the way to work because it was so just like charming and warm and fuzzy, and it just made me feel good. And I listen to audiobooks predominantly on my commute to and from work. So when you're sitting in traffic and you're listening to something as cute as The Bookshop on the Corner, it just makes for a good start to your day. And the story was really, really cute. Audiobook narrator added so much to it just with her voice and just how charming she made the story. So yes, highly recommend that one, especially if you need a pick-me-up on the way to work. And then the last book that I listened to on audiobook was Sourdough by Robin Sloan. And this one was a lot of fun because they added in additional kind of elements. So there's this whole thing about how the sourdough responds to this mosque music. And so whenever she talks about the music of the mosque, then you hear that music in the background kind of ramp up, which I thought was really, really cool because that's something you would never get with the actual physical book. And it just added so much because you got that like little cultural element by hearing this music, and you also got that kind of intense feeling that went with it. So yeah, I thought that that was especially cool, and I really enjoyed the choice of narrator for this one and the story. While the ending was kind of weird, this was another story that I found to be a really good pick for a commute because it did make me feel hopeful and excited. So those are 5 of my favorite audiobooks that I listened to this year, and I hope maybe you found a recommendation. Either way, I would love to hear what audiobooks you listened to this year, if there were any that were major standouts that I should look into. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!